All right, we are going to get started. Hello, everyone, and good evening. Welcome to today's webinar, NFTs and IP Monetization. We're going to get started. We're going to jump right in. I'm going to introduce our speakers for you. We're super excited to have Cameron Pitt here. Cameron is partner and patent attorney at Marshall, Gernstein and Boron LLP, prosecutes domestic and foreign patent applications for emerging technologies. He develops sophisticated forward-thinking patent strategies for diverse clientele, ranging from startups to Fortune 100 companies in the industries of electrical and software engineering. Cameron is an active member of Blockchain Lawyers of Chicago and is a thought leader on NFTs. Marshall, Gernstein and Boron has been a law firm for over 65 years. Their headquarters are in Chicago, Illinois, with a second office in North Carolina. Marshall Gernstein serves clients both nationally and internationally in the legal areas of patent and trademark prosecution, transactional and litigation counseling, copyright and trade secret protection. We also have Dr. Alex Liu. Dr. Alex Liu is one of the world's top experts in big data analytics and machine learning. He earned his PhD from Stanford University and started working on blockchain projects when he was chief data scientist at IBM in 2018. Now he is the founder and CEO of RMDS Lab, leading the team to create the world's first NFT marketplace for science and technology, while he also serves as an advisor to the Harvard Data Science Review magazine. Thank you so much, Cameron and Dr. Alex Liu. We're super excited to have you here, and I'm going to hand it over. The floor is yours.
All right, well, thank you very much, Christy, for that great introduction. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about NFTs and how they can be used to monetize intellectual property. First, I'm going to give a little background on what an NFT is. I know a lot of people have heard about NFTs in the news. Maybe you saw things like Bored Apes or the people that have sold different NFTs for millions of dollars, but not that many people know exactly how NFTs work. So I'm going to get into that, and then I'm going to describe how they can be used to monetize intellectual property or IP. So next slide, please. So an NFT is a non-fungible token stored on a blockchain that represents an item in the digital or physical world. So this is different from fungible tokens like Bitcoin or Ether that don't represent unique items. Fungible tokens can also be things like the US dollar, meaning that for each amount of the currency, you can just exchange that same amount back and forth, and there's nothing unique about it. If I want to acquire 30 US dollars, it doesn't matter if I get $30 from one party or $20 from a second party and $10 from a third party. It's $30 is $30. But an NFT, each token represents a unique item. And so NFTs can represent items in the physical world, like houses, cars, artwork, and they can also represent items in the digital world, like video game assets. Even tweets have been sold as NFTs, and we've seen a lot of digital art sold as NFTs. Next slide, please. So an NFT certifies the authenticity of the owner of the item. I like to think of an NFT kind of as the deed to a property. So an NFT can represent your house, and it would be the deed to the house. And if you transferred the NFT to another party, you're not necessarily giving them the keys to your house, but they would be able to show through the certificate of authenticity that they're the new owner of the house. So this prevents counterfeiting, and it allows property information to be recorded in an immutable, transparent ledger. And so this ledger would be a blockchain like Ethereum's blockchain, or there's many others, but by having it on a blockchain, you can very easily look up who's the owner of each NFT, and this can simplify complicated processes like title search. An NFT is created or minted via a smart contract. So a smart contract is code that's run by each of the nodes in a distributed ledger. So in a blockchain, each computer in the blockchain runs its own code to verify the function that was requested. The most common blockchain is the Ethereum blockchain, and it's done via the ERC 721 standard. And I'm going to get into what that standard is in a little bit. But NFTs can also be minted on the Flow blockchain, Hedera Hashgraph, Tezos, the Wax blockchain, and there's many more. Next slide, please. So NFTs are secured through cryptography. And this is one of the key things to why they can be so significant. Only the owner has the private keys to transfer the NFT. So something like with title search, all the title documents might be maintained in one centralized area. And so to access that, everyone has to access that one specific area. And if someone hacks into it, they can manipulate it. Or if they can't get access to that specific place, then they're out of luck. But with an NFT, you actually maintain the keys to transfer it and to do whatever you want with it. NFTs can also be fractionalized. So instead of having to transfer ownership of the whole NFT, you can transfer a half of an NFT or even a very small portion, like 1% or 0.1%. And this can allow for increased liquidity in markets with large barriers to entry, like buying and selling houses. With a house, if you want to become a real estate investor, generally you have to either get a mortgage or come up with hundreds of thousands of dollars. But in this situation, you might be able to purchase a small percentage of the NFT that represents a house and become an investor that way. And this can also work well with things like fine art, where we've seen some very rich people make a lot of money off of certain artwork, but it's not accessible to that many people. One thing that's important to note, though, is that owning an NFT doesn't prove ownership of any IP rights associated with the item. So if you own the NFT, it does not mean that you own the copyright. Generally, the original party who mints the NFT owns the copyright, and they're transferring you the one copy of that asset, and you can resell the NFT, but you don't really have the right to make copies of it unless they did transfer you the copyright, and the original party who minted it can continue to make copies, but you get to say that you're the owner of the original copy, essentially. Next slide, please. So I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit here to kind of demystify what an NFT is and show you exactly what it looks like. So this is code from Crypto Zombies, which is a tutorial on Solidity, which is the programming language for Ethereum smart contracts. I highly recommend Crypto Zombies if you want to learn about how to program in smart contracts. It's really good. But so this is an example of a smart contract for NFTs for these Crypto Zombies. So the Crypto Zombies are essentially different digital artwork, different images of zombies. So, you know, one zombie might have 2 eyes, one zombie might have 3 eyes. They all would have slightly different properties. And what the NFT really boils down to is the structure, the struct zombie in a programming language. And the structure has a few properties associated with the zombie. Here, a name and a DNA. And so the DNA is just a 16-digit number where each digit represents a different aspect of the zombie. So the first digit might be his hair color. The second digit could be eye color. The third digit could be what kind of shirt the zombie's wearing. And that's really all the NFT is. It's the structure and these attributes. And the attributes could be links to something else. Like if it's a property, it might be a link to the physical deed. As you'll also see in the code, if you look near the bottom, to create a zombie, you send in the name of the zombie that you want to create in the DNA, and an ID is created. And so really that ID is the unique token for the NFT. So the NFT has this unique token where each zombie would have its own ID, and then it has its properties. And the last two lines of this code show the message.sender is the blockchain address. And so for that address, the ID is assigned to that address. So the user that owns that address gets the NFT, the ID for that NFT. And then the count, the number of zombies that that user has, is incremented by 1. Next slide, please. And so this is the code for the ERC 721 standard. So this is one standard for making NFTs. And so what the standard requires is that you have these functions. There might be a few others, but these are kind of the main ones. And so these functions are that you can request the balance of, to find, if you send in an owner address, you can find how many zombies or how many of a particular type of NFT that owner has. Then there's also the owner of, so you can see for a particular NFT based on the ID for it, who the owner is. And you can also transfer NFTs with this transfer function from one blockchain address to another. And if you pass in the ID of the NFT, it'll transfer it. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about how NFTs can be used to monetize intellectual property. Next slide, please. And when we talk about intellectual property, there's a few different types of IP. One is patents, and patents cover different kinds of inventions. Another is trademarks, which cover brand names, logos. It could also be slogans. Another is copyright, which protects music, artwork, books, basically anything that's written down or drawn or sculptures. And the last type of IP is trade secrets, which is also for inventions, but as opposed to a patent where you actually disclose your invention to the public to get a monopoly on it for a short period, trade secret, you don't disclose it, and by keeping it secret, you can maintain rights over it for forever. So, for example, Coca-Cola has gone to pretty extreme measures to keep their formula a trade secret, and even though they've been around for over 100 years, nobody outside the company knows that formula. And so when we're talking about monetizing IP through NFTs, we're mostly talking about patents and copyrights. There could be some examples where you'd want to monetize your trademarks. And there would be some situations with trade secrets, but because trade secrets, you don't disclose what they are, it gets a lot more difficult. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about some of the issues with patent monetization, but while these are mentioned with reference to patents, they also can apply for other types of IP like copyrights and also trademarks. So one issue is that patents can be very difficult to value. They're illiquid. There's really not a great marketplace out there right now to find out how much they're worth. Every once in a while, there will be a licensing deal or a settlement, but a lot of times those deals occur behind closed doors with, just two lawyers going back and forth, and that information isn't made public. You will hear the occasional big lawsuit, but those are few and far between. The other issue is that patents have more value in a large portfolio than individually, and that can be very costly. most patents, I'd say on average, from the time you file it to the time the patent's granted, it costs somewhere in the range of about $30,000. So to build up the kind of portfolio that another company wants to acquire, you might have to have 10 or even more patents. So you're getting in the hundreds of thousands to the millions of dollars that you have to spend before you can really realize that value. Another issue is that the marketplace for a patent is typically limited to direct competitors. You don't usually have speculators or other types of investors that are going in and licensing or purchasing patents. It's generally a situation where a direct competitor wants to get into that marketplace, or they want to prevent someone else from getting into a specific marketplace, and that's why they're interested in the patent. Infringement suits can also cost millions of dollars, and this prevents a lot of patent holders from asserting their rights against potential infringers. You might have a really great case against somebody, but unless you can afford, a few million dollars to go from start to finish, a lot of companies aren't comfortable asserting their patent. Next slide, please. So what NFTs do is they provide a clear record of ownership and the licensing deals and encumbrances on IP via the blockchain. So as I mentioned before, a lot of the deals that were taking place were happening behind closed doors, and it's just two lawyers kind of hammering it out. But with an NFT, you would have a record every time it's transferred on a public blockchain that anyone could see, and they can see what different types of IP, what kind of value they got, and that can create a marketplace. It also would allow IP holders to sell shares of their IP, as opposed to having to sell full patents or even bundles of patents or copyrights or trademarks. They could sell just a small portion, and this really can allow for a liquid marketplace where speculators might want to come in and take a chance on getting a small percentage of several different patents in the hopes that one or a few end up being very valuable or going to a big lawsuit. This also can be a form of litigation funding. So as I mentioned, lawsuits can cost millions of dollars. And so what some companies will do is, if they think they have a really good case, but they don't have the money, they'll go out to an investor and they can get funding, and then the investor gets a percentage of the lawsuit, whatever they get out of the lawsuit, by selling an NFT that maybe represents a portion of a patent, and then suing on the patent. You can raise money by selling that portion of the NFT. This also reduces transaction costs, and it simplifies the transaction process. As I mentioned, selling it on an NFT marketplace can be very fast and easy, and does not require all of the steps and costs necessary to transfer IP that you have right now. Next slide, please. So right now, NFTs are being used in a few ways for IP monetization, but they haven't been used that much. US patent 1025797 has been listed as an NFT on OpenSea, which is an NFT marketplace. There's a few other patents that have been listed on NFT marketplaces like OpenSea, and there might be some others. And then RMDS Labs is creating an NFT marketplace exclusively for science and technology IP. And Alex is going to talk to you about that.
Thank you, Cameron. So I will continue. As mentioned, RMDS is going to create a marketplace. And the reason for that is, as Cameron mentioned, there are many benefits for utilizing NFT for IP transaction. However, that is happening not in large scale. And there are a few cases and scientists start to utilize NFT. And I think many of you probably read some articles on New York Times, Nature, and other places reporting about the individual cases, like UC Berkeley auction something out from Nobel Prize scientific work, and that produce some good return for the university. And there are also some like reported case for mint scientific work in a marketplace. And also, if you look at the online and media, you will see also some article about some scientists and mentions, hey, I tried, like they mint something on OpenSea, and which is one of the largest NFT marketplace. And also quite many and scientists or other people and have written articles about NFT as not the only way for IP transaction, and it could be a good way for fundraising for scientists, because as we know, and the scientists and many of them need to spend a lot of time for getting funding for their projects. So this is also a way for helping scientists. And however, like science NFT are a little bit different from the current focus, which is art NFT. Next slide, please. So currently, and OpenSea probably is the one very famous, everybody know, but actually they are, if you search, there may be 20 or even more marketplaces for NFT. Many of them are actually doing very well and have transaction of in millions of dollars or more, and on a daily basis. And however, most of them, and if you go there, if you look and search for the available NFT to purchase, at least 90% or more of them are all about art. So the situation currently is that if you want to buy or mint art NFT, there's a lot of available marketplaces, but for science, and it's not happening yet. Next, please. And I think one of the reasons is that IP NFTs and science NFTs have some special requirements. For example, and for art, mostly just an image, right? So you can upload the picture file, then you can mint it, then basically specify certain terms for the smart contract to kind of create NFT for your artwork. And but for science IPs, and there's a very different. And for example, if we want to mint a data set, and it's not just a picture, and so the file requirement will be different. And if you mint a workflow, or you even just mint a tech report, it's going to be in PDF file, right? So the file and the type will be different. And the second, and like Cameron mentioned, mostly in science or IP, then the term can be also be different. It's not like art. Say, here's a picture. Okay, you buy it, I sell to you. And in science, it's more complicated. For example, for pattern, and you may want to sell a certain percentage of that. And also a pattern usually have multiple claims, right? And so you may want to just sell partially, and like 3 out of 10 claims, you want to transfer that out, then you keep the rest. So that would be different. On the other hand, also is that for the science, and as mentioned, it's not easy to evaluate. So how to determine the price for the both sides will take some work. And so for us, we think is that for the science and the marketplace, you also need some assessment, reading, community involvement, and also there's more involved. And as for the current marketplace, as reported, fraud is a big issue. And someone can just copy something, then they mint, then and sell it. But actually, this person may have nothing to do with the creation of that image, that art. And but for the science, right? Then this can even create more problems. So the marketplace and whatever enable IP NFT, science FT need to take care of this and issues. So which is why that science and NFT, IP NFT are not there yet. Next slide, please. And so for RMDS, we have created a marketplace. Or in the process is about to be made available to the public on late next month, late March. And the domain name is rmdsnft.com. So in there, we worked very hard to solve some of the problems. And so we will install assessment and even some recommendations, like Cameron mentioned, for IPs. A single IP or single patent quite often is not meaningful, it's not that valuable. And for the purchaser, for the buyer, you want to get a portfolio of it. Then how can you do it? Then basically you will need some recommendation. Actually, and in my opinion, and the marketplace is a good tool to solve this problem because we can actually get everything together. And then, right, it then will be easy for us to use a recommendation engine to combine and to relate all the relevant pattern together and recommend that to the buyers. So the buyer and the investor will not need to spend a lot of time and resources, money to do their own research to find this, and we will become a one place for all of them to get everything. And on the other hand, is that as you know, and some of you may know that and our marketplace is the first one and created specifically for science and technology IPs. And related to this, recently there's also one article, and probably the only one called the article and published by Nature. The article is called Patents and Intellectual Property Asset as NFT Key Technology and Challenges, and which kind of describes how and NFT can be utilized for patent and IP transaction. It also lay out all the requirements and the challenge, which is a very, very good article published on Nature. We and fortunately get connected to this group, the authoring group and the research group, and published and this article. They have done a lot of research. So we are fortunately connect to a lot of and research groups who have spent resources, time to kind of figure this out, and will work together with us to ensure something we create will be among the best to serve everyone. Next, please. And give people some idea and about our marketplace. And we have a few layers. So you see that on the bottom, we are going to and mostly and mint all the NFT on Ethereum and blockchain, which is the most popular one. And beyond that, we also probably will work together with a few others like Polygon, Immutable X. Those are what we call the layer 2 blockchain, and they are gas free. That means like you create something, mint something, you do not have to pay the gas fee, and there will be a good benefit for creators. And besides that, we also have other partners, and including IBM and other technology companies. We will work together to ensure we have a solid technology foundation for our um, blockchain and the NFT marketplace. And as you all know, right, when you have a marketplace, and if you do not have real community, and it's not going to be successful. You see like there are some other marketplace, then you can mint your IP and NFT, but because you do not have the relevant science community, then your NFT will get no attention, and also will not be able to get a fair evaluation and everything right, which is needed for your NFT get valued and also sold. So for us, fortunately is that we can just start from data science community, and which has more than 40,000 participants so far. And on top of that, thousands of them are very active. So we'll bring this community into our marketplace. And besides this, we also start to work together with some technology and groups and publishers, and who owns thousands and IPs. They are interested in us, so they will start to bring their IPs into the market. So in this place, we will have very active community support, and also have hundreds, if not thousands, IPs to get started. And in that way, like it's like whenever you go to a physical market, you want to see a lot of people, a lot of items there, right? It's not, otherwise it's not a market. So we have all this prepared for us to be real good, active marketplace. Next, please. And so far, we also luckily and have obtained a good medium and response. And some of you probably noticed that, and we got some coverage by Chemistry World, by uh, tech news, by some and app development news. And besides that, we also have like a quite good coverage from the newspaper and the news media uh, in the field of like blockchain and the NFT and cryptocurrency. So it's good that we already have the media attention, and we name us as this our marketplace as the world #1 NFT market for science and technology IPs. And as announced, it will be made available to the public in late March. Next, please. So this is what we have prepared. And if you are interested, you are even welcome to take a look of the website. And it's still in the process of building, but we will start soon, allow our close partners to start utilize the marketplace and start to mint NFTs and get everything ready for and exchange. So to summarize what I have and covered so far is that in order to really get IP, NFT, and science NFT to work for us, which is to help scientists to raise fund and also to make the IP transaction and easier and also like more convenient to everybody. We do need some kind of special marketplace. We need some special support, and also we need a special community to working together and make this a real success for the science community, for the IP community. And fortunately, we get good support for RMDS Lab to start this and making our effort to contribute to those type of marketplace. And for that, we also welcome all kind partner and all kind help. So that's all I want to cover, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Cameron and Alex. We really appreciate it. And I know a lot of us learned a ton. Now I'm going to leave the floor for questions. You can submit your questions in the chat. If you feel more comfortable, you can just speak them out loud. I do have a couple questions already to kick it off. Let's see. The first one is, what's the major difference between RMDS's marketplace and other existing marketplaces? I know you kind of touched on that, Alex, but what's the major difference?
And yes, I touched some of that. And another one I want to mention is that our marketplace and is built on top of our data science ecosystem approach. So, and ecosystem and a platform as well. So in that way, we will only like serve members. So anyone who want to mint or want to purchase, they will need to sign up to become a member. So in that way, we will understand the create. We will have some more information and about the creator. So for the purchase investor, they will have more information and about the IPs. On the other hand, it's because it's on top of a data science ecosystem platform, and we have the capability to assess, to read, and also to recommend. So all those kind of services will be available to the creators and also the purchase, which will be very different from other marketplaces.
Thank you, Alex. Another question we have is, how do pieces retain value with potentially infinite supply?
Cameron, do you want to cover that?
I can repeat it. How do pieces retain value with potentially infinite supply?
So in terms of different types of IP, how do they retain their value?
Yeah, specific, NFT piece, artwork pieces.
Oh, for artwork? Well, for artwork, it's just like anything in the physical world. There's plenty of supply out there, but there's certain things that society attributes as valuable, like things like the Mona Lisa, Van Gogh paintings. There's plenty of other paintings out there by many artists that I have no idea who they are, but for some reason, society attributes value to a certain set of artwork, and essentially that's the theory, is that it will be the same with NFTs, that even though it's digital art, people can create many, many more. There's going to be some that people just decide, well, these are very valuable, and they'll retain their value that way.
Yeah, I also want to add is that actually this is also, it's a very good question. And it's also related to the philosophy, the principle used for our data science and the ecosystem. And because we know right now, like data are available everywhere, and there's also easy software. So you can take a data, put into software, and then immediately you can return some nice graph or a nice report. But not all of them are really useful. So this can be infinity. The useful ones will be the one like data science and the report. They let really kind of give people insight and for their problem they want to solve. So through this, and in order to like determine which one is very useful or which one is not, then you need a community, right? Which is how we can come in to help, because we do have a a very large community to support this marketplace.
Definitely. Thank you, guys. And then one last question. I know you both touched on this, but how are NFTs specifically valued?
So there's no, exact way that NFTs are valued. They're really just valued based on the marketplace. So that's another thing with IP. What you're seeing in the NFT world with artwork is a few of them end up selling for crazy amounts. A lot don't, but a lot sell for, at least something. They retain at least some value. But there's a few that are selling for millions of dollars. And what could happen with patents is there might be situations where people either buy a small bundle of patents or copyrights or other types of IP and make a great return, or they buy percentages of a few different ones and they make a great return. And when that gets out in the news, then there's going to be a rush to get in there and have others try to speculate on the value of these NFTs.
Yeah, I agree, and because that's why the marketplace is needed, right? It's really up to demand and supply, and besides that, of course, like there are maybe ways that data science, data-driven prediction, and data-driven assessment can help, but it's only can provide it as a reference, and overall, the final price or final value definitely need to be determined by the marketplace.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions? It looks like that was the last one. Feel free, don't be shy, send them in the chat, or you can speak them however you feel most comfortable. All right, it doesn't look like there's any more questions in the chat. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you so much, Alex. You guys have been awesome. Thank you to everyone who has joined us today for this webinar. And we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.